Is your state so bad nobody wants to move there anymore? Keep watching and find out. In 2023, 8 states lost population. 11 pretty much broke even, and in 2024 it looks like they're going to be about the same. But in 2025, it is predicted that 10 states will actually lose population. Now there's a lot that goes into this. If you lose too much population, you lose congressmen, meaning less representation in Washington, D.C. Nobody wants that. It can eventually get down to less electoral college votes. Today we're looking at states that will be losing population and why. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Hawaii. Oh, Hawaii, the land of sun, surf, and apparently a skyrocketing cost of living. People used to flock to the island for that paradise life. You know, Adam and Eve, Garden of Eden thing with pina coladas and surf. But now it seems they're fleeing faster than me when my wife says, let's go to Target. The first big reason people are fleeing is, like I said, that cost of living. And it's everything. Groceries, rent, gas, you name it, it's more expensive in Hawaii. I'm sorry, pineapple and macadamia nuts are pretty darn cheap. I mean, who wants to spend $17 on a gallon of milk when you can just convince yourself you're lactose intolerant and forget the whole process? Hawaii consistently ranks as one of the most expensive places to live in the US, with housing costs about 80% higher than the national average. Who needs a beachfront property when you could live in a mansion elsewhere for the same price as a shack 6 blocks from the beach filled with homeless people in Hawaii, right? Then there's the job market, or should I say lack thereof. Unless you're a surfer, bartender, or somehow involved in the thriving overpriced tourist luau industry, good luck finding a well-paying gig. Sure, the island may boast a low unemployment rate, but that doesn't mean you're not going to be grinding 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And don't even get me started on the wages. They're about 10% lower than the US average, while paying more for everything else. Imagine earning less and paying more. It's like winning a reverse lottery. And finally, let's talk about the cherry on top of this tropical disaster Sunday. Island fever. You're stuck on a rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and flights to anywhere else cost an arm and a leg, and probably your firstborn child. Oddly enough, it's a lot cheaper to get to Hawaii than get from Hawaii. Hawaii's population dropped over 7,000 residents in 2023 alone. Paradise is great until you realize you can't afford it and you're trapped there. This isn't Cuba. You can't make yourself a raft and start floating out to sea hoping to hit the mainland. In 2025, it's predicted that Hawaii will lose 0.29% of their population. Now, that doesn't sound like a big percentage, but when you're talking about populations, that is. All states are supposed to grow. Number 9, Oregon. If the game Oregon Trail had a soundtrack, right now it's being flipped in the other directions. They're playing it backwards because everyone's leaving. Folks are packing up their Subarus and heading out of state. Why do you ask? Well, it turns out that all those Keep Oregon or Keep Portland Weird bumper stickers was more of a prophecy than a motto. For starters, the housing market has gone up full Portlandia on people's budgets. Housing prices have skyrocketed, making it feel like you need to sell a kidney on the black market just to afford a bungalow in Portland. Apparently, bidding wars are the state's new sport, and most residents can't keep up. And let's not forget the weather. You know, how people used to say, oh, it rains a lot, but you'll get used to it. Not so much. I mean, some people do, not everyone does. After the millionth soggy morning and gray soul-sucking day, even the hardest Oregonians start to dream of a place where they can see the sun without squinting through the mists and the moss. And of course, the growing wildfire seasons, which seem determined to turn the state into a literal smoke show. If it's not raining, it's burning. Mother Nature clearly has a sense of humor, and it's a dark one. Lastly, let's talk about the taxes. Oregon's got no sales tax, sure, but the income tax? Oh, it's high enough to make you wonder if the state's legislature is running a charity fundraiser and forgot to send you the memo. And what do you get for all those tax dollars? Well, apparently you get a whole bunch of people that are living on the streets in your neighborhood, in your parks, and on your sidewalks. Now, we're talking about Oregon, but a majority of the people that move to Oregon are moving to the Portland metro area. And here's a weird thing about Portland. You have your local government, the Portland, city hall, mayor, and all that stuff, and you pay your tax to that. Well, they have a second layer of taxes which I can't understand. It's called Metro. So you got your taxes, and then you got your Metro taxes. They're supposed to take care of the homeless. Matter of fact, if you make too much money and you're living in the Portland metro area, they send you a bill, or you're supposed to pay this homeless tax. They got some fancy term for it, like the housing outreach program. It's just some government nonsense. Basically, you're paying for the homeless people to live on the streets. Now, the homeless situation in Portland is getting a little bit better, but it is nowhere near being okay. I hadn't been on the MAX, which is the local train system, in quite some time here in Portland, probably about 5 years. I heard nothing but it's getting worse and it's getting crowded and it's getting gross. I thought absolutely not, because it was the jewel of Portland not too long ago when I used to ride it downtown for work. Yeah, I was wrong. I got on it. It was pretty gross. It was overcrowded and people were angry. We're slowly turning into New York City's subway system, above ground and in the rain. The good news is you could still see bum fights if you drive by one on the MAX. You just look out the window. There's always some homeless people throwing blows. I don't know why they're so angry. I mean, the city gives them all kinds of money. But Oregon, other than the Portland area, it does have other problems throughout the state. Those problems aren't major and they're not terrible. It's just Portland, it drags down the whole state. It is predicted in 2025, Oregon will lose 0.29% of their population. Number 8, California. People are leaving California faster than a YouTube creator bailing on a brand deal for asbestos face masks from China. The state has been blessed with gorgeous coastline, sun-drenched weather, and Hollywood glamour. But apparently, none of that makes up for the sky-high rent prices that leave you selling your 1940s comic book collection on Craigslist just to afford a studio apartment above a recycling center. The median home price in California? That's an easy $800,000. That's right now. It'll change in a week. It's about double what the rest of the country is paying. Now, if the standard cost of living doesn't drive you to flee, how about the taxes that make you feel like you're working just to pay the state's bills? California has the highest income tax rate in the nation at 13.3% for top earners, which, let's be real, is a great way to make residents feel like they're donating to a charity that they didn't sign up for. Combine that with the fact that gas prices are higher than Elon Musk's net worth. Okay, maybe not that high, but you get my point. It's clear why people are packing their bags and heading to more wallet-friendly pastures. I almost said pastor. Like, you're a wallet-friendly clergyman. That never happens. Then there's the wildfires, blackouts, and traffic that makes you question your life choices every time you get on the freeway. The 405 freeway in Los Angeles is ridiculous, and it should be illegal. Living in California is almost like living at Universal Studios on their live-action disaster set, without Scarlett Johansson and special effects. You really can't blame Californians for leaving when they can trade the constant fear of their house catching fire to a less stressful life in Texas or Arizona, where they can actually afford a home, fill up their gas tank, and maybe, just maybe, enjoy a commute that doesn't last as long as a Netflix series binge. When you look at California and look at their population growth, it has been growing since the 1840s. Probably before that, but that's when they started tracking it. Not probably. They know it was growing. Only the last couple of years has it actually, for the first time, started losing population. What's really startling about this whole thing is they're still one of the most moved to states. People are still flooding in there. The difference is, more people are flooding out now for the first time ever. It is predicted that in 2025, California will lose 0.33% of their population. Number 7, New York. People are leaving New York like it's the Titanic and the iceberg just announced a buy one and get one free deal on lifeboats. Sure, it's got all the glitz and glam, but New York has also become a masterclass on how to pay $3,500 a month to live in a shoebox that requires a gymnastics routine just to make it into bed. Now, I've said before, we're talking about the state, but New York City is, for the most part, where everyone moves to. So when you talk about New York, it's dominated by New York City. That being said, prices are up in upstate and everywhere else in New York as well. But back to New York City, with already high rent prices up around 30% over the past few years, many New Yorkers have decided that they'd rather be the king of the suburbs than the malnourished of Manhattan. Because who doesn't want to spend half their salary on rent and the other half on Starbucks? Am I right? Or am I right? Am I right? Am I right? I'm right. Now, the entire state of New York is saddled with some pretty high taxes. New York's taxes are like a bad ex. You think you're done, but they keep showing up and wanting more cash. Between state, city, and property taxes, some people are getting gouged more than a block of cheddar at a fondue party. Add in the work from home revolution, where people realized that they could do their job in Iowa just as well as they did it in New York City without getting yelled at by a cab driver or paying $12 for a cup of coffee. Then there's the issue of safety, which has become a growing concern. Crime rates have ticked up in recent years, making some folks question if dodging scooters and aggressive pigeons is worth the daily stress. And that's just in New York City. It's up in a lot of the different cities in New York. Syracuse, Albany, you name it, their crime rates ticked up a little bit. Overall, though, over the last, I'd say, 10 years, crime rates have dropped all throughout the United States. So compared to 10 years ago, they're still down, but they're going up again. While New York is dealing with this, other states are throwing out the red carpet with promises of quieter streets, lower costs, and parking spaces. No wonder people are packing up and heading for the hills, or at least the nearest state line. New York State is estimated to drop 0.3% in their population in 2025. Number 6, Alabama. People are leaving Alabama faster than a mosquito flees from a citronella candle. Why? Well, for starters, it's a bit of a hot mess. And not just because of the weather. Alabama's been dealing with economic challenges for years. The job opportunities are thinner than my explanation to my wife on why I need another drone. In 2023, the state's unemployment rate hovered around 2.6%, which sounds good. But when you look at who's getting the jobs, it's more complicated. Manufacturing jobs are on the decline, and younger professionals are heading to places where they can actually use their overpriced college degrees. Shocking, right? So it's no wonder that people are packing up and heading to states with, more tech jobs and upward mobility. Then there's the fact that Alabama's education system isn't exactly a beacon of excellence. Now, not talk about the universities, talk about below that. It consistently ranks near the bottom of the national education rankings, like 45th or worse, depending on the year. Basically, the equivalent of getting a participation trophy at state level. Parents, unsurprisingly, are taking their kids to states with better schools where they might actually learn how to code or, read above the 6th grade level. It's like they're finally realizing that sending their kids to an underfunded school wasn't the best investment strategy. Crazy, I know, right? And don't get me started on the healthcare. Alabama ranks 46th in the nation for healthcare. Now, some of their cities have excellent hospitals, and even the smaller communities have excellent hospitals. They just don't have enough hospitals. So access is a big part of healthcare. And if you don't have access and you don't have enough doctors, you don't have enough nurses, you don't have enough facilities, that's where the problems show up. And that's what lowers these states' rankings. People who actually care about their well-being are fleeing to places where doctors are available without a 6-month wait. And the emergency rooms don't resemble a 1970s horror movie set. Basically, Alabama's turning into a party everyone's leaving early because they heard there's a better one across the state line. It is estimated that in 2025, Alabama will lose 0.35% of their population. Number 5, New Mexico. New Mexico, the land of enchantment, has a bit of an enchantment problem. It's losing people faster than a gas station burrito causes regret. Despite its gorgeous sunsets and endless horizons, the state seems to have a bit of a people retention problem. Maybe it's the fact that enchantment doesn't pay the bills. You really can't just sprinkle a little of that desert magic on a grocery bill and make it disappear, or expect affordable housing to materialize out of nowhere. Between 2010 and 2020, New Mexico's population growth barely crawled at 2.8%, compared to 7.4% national average. 2.8% is the lowest growth New Mexico has had since the Ulysses S. Grant administration in 1870. I don't know, maybe they found other more enchanting places like Oklahoma. Part of the exodus might have to do with the job market. If you're not working for the government in healthcare or farming green chilies, you might find yourself refreshing your LinkedIn page like it's a dating app with no matches. The unemployment rate in New Mexico is usually higher than the national average, and in 2023, it hovered around 4.6%, while the rest of the country was rocking a 3.5%. It's like playing hide and seek with jobs, and New Mexico is losing. Combine that with the median household income that's about 20% lower than the national average, you're starting to see why people are packing their turquoise jewelry and heading elsewhere. And let's not forget the housing market, which is another fun factor. While housing costs aren't ridiculous like California, they're creeping up without the economic boom to justify it. Santa Fe and Albuquerque have seen housing prices rise like a hot air balloon at a balloon fiesta. But wages aren't exactly following suit. so people are heading out for greener pastures. Like I've said before, humans are like grazing animals. They graze one field until it's gone, and then they move to another field. Now, it's not just the people of New Mexico. That's not the problem. It's just other states have more job prospects, better pay, and fewer tumbleweeds. It's estimated that in 2025, New Mexico's population will drop by 0.37%. Number 4, Alaska. People are leaving Alaska in droves, and it's not because they suddenly developed a distaste for breathtaking mountains, endless wilderness, or salmon. No, it turns out living in the middle of nature's freezer isn't as romantic as it sounds or looks on Instagram. Those forever sunsets are pretty cool, but when you have to scrape ice off your car for 6 straight months, cool loses its charm pretty fast. Nobody ever, dreams about frostbite, seasonal depression, and the majestic beauty of slipping on black ice every single winter. Another reason for the mass exodus, the economy is, well, let's say on life support. The oil industry, once Alaska's sugar daddy, has been a bit stingy lately, thanks to declining production and lower oil prices. Unemployment rates are hovering around 4.7%, and when your job prospects are as frozen as the Yukon River, people start looking for warmer and more financially promising places. California has wildfires, homeless, and earthquakes, but at least they have a job market that's hot. Alaska, not so much. And don't get me started on the cost of living. Everything costs more in Alaska, from groceries to housing. You think those avocados are expensive in California? In Alaska, they're basically a luxury item. $6 for a single avocado. Oh, and don't forget your heating bill. When winter lasts 9 months, you're basically paying rent just to stay alive. No wonder people are packing up their bags for places where they can enjoy a warm breeze without worrying about a polar bear knocking on their front door. You're not going to see a polar bear. It's just an exaggeration. But I promise you're going to see a moose or two. It is predicted that Alaska's population will drop 0.39% in 2025. Number 3, Louisiana. Louisiana seems to be perfecting the art of losing people faster than it could throw beads at a top-heavy Mardi Gras attendee. The big reason for the exodus is the constant threat of hurricanes, floods, and other fun natural disasters like people with guns. Who wouldn't want to gamble every year on whether their house will float away or not? In fact, since 2000, Louisiana's lost nearly 40 square miles of land per year to coastal erosion. That's like an entire small town disappears annually in this state. But at least there's more water for swamp tours. I mean, those things are getting boring when you've been on like 20 of them. Now there's whole new areas to explore. Then there's the state's thriving economy. When I say thriving, I actually mean falling apart. Louisiana has some charm, but it's also a state where people earn a median income of about $54,000, which is $7,000 lower than the national average. Between the struggling job market and the high poverty rate, sitting comfortably at about 19%, nearly double the national average. But then again, who needs financial security when you can have endless Mardi Gras beads, right? Of course, you can't forget their stellar education system. Louisiana constantly ranks at the bottom in the national educational rankings, hovering somewhere around 48th or 50th. Depends on the year and depends on which study. Because clearly, learning is optional when you've got alligator wrestling to fall back on. Yeah, so it's not hard to see why so many people are waving goodbye to the Bayou State. They're just tired of rolling the dice on natural disasters, low wages, and subpar education. It is predicted that Louisiana will lose 0.44% of their population in 2025. Number 2, Mississippi. Mississippi consistently ranks low in healthcare, education, and income. Many potential movers are put off by these rankings because they suggest limited opportunity for career advancement and quality of life. The state's low wages and high poverty rates add to the concerns of people seeking stability. The only reason people move here at all is because you could buy a house cheaper than you can get a 1983 Ford Escort GT. Furthermore, the state struggles with issues like poor infrastructure and social tensions. There's also an issue of severe weather, like hurricanes and tornadoes. Tornadoes are very rare, but they're both very rare, but they happen and they ruin your day. And this is a deal breaker for a lot of people looking for long-term housing or build a new life. These combined factors have led many to reconsider Mississippi as a destination for putting down roots. It is predicted that Mississippi will drop in population 0.51% in 2025. All right, before we get to number 1, I'd just like to invite you to subscribe to the channel. I never really asked that. I know a lot of YouTubers just say that every single video, but I'd like to see the channel grow a little bit more. So if you would, just hit that like button and that notification button, and we'll see you in the next video. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, West Virginia. Once known for its coal industry, West Virginia has struggled with economic decline. The state's dependency on fossil fuels means fewer job opportunities as the country moves towards renewable energy. Now, they still do pull coal out of the ground in West Virginia, but its heyday is past. I mean, they have moved on to other things. I know a lot of people in West Virginia and other states feel like it's going to come back. It's not going to come back. It'll still be there, and it'll be there for a very long time, just not at the levels it once was. It happens to all kinds of industries, not just the coal industry. Remember when we used to get cassette tapes and VHS tapes? Anyone anymore? No, there's no reason for it. There's other things now. This state is starting to lean into ecotourism, which is a fancy word for outdoor activities. That's their future, I think. But West Virginia faces other challenges in healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Mountainous terrains make it difficult to build new developments and attract industries that rely on good connectivity on both roads and internet. Now, the internet part they're kind of fixing right now, so hopefully this will turn things around for them in the future. While the natural beauty is undeniable, the lack of economic and social opportunity leaves people looking for more promising places to live. Like Mississippi, you move here because it is dirt cheap to buy a house. You could buy a house here on a, full-time Taco Bell salary. I'm not even kidding. And that doesn't mean you have the money to plop down for the house. You make payments on your house as an escrow. I mentioned something like that before, and some guy went off about, I worked at Taco Bell and I only made $180 a month. They're going to sell me a house for $180? Well, first of all, it sounds like you're working part-time and you're not very good at it. So I don't think math is your strong point. It is predicted that West Virginia in 2025 will drop population by 0.60%. All right, that's today's video. If you enjoyed this one, you probably enjoy one of the 2 videos being suggested right now. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.